So you cannot propose we can go for secant pile, we can go for sheet pile. No, you have a specific purpose. You will have these soil profile here. Okay, you will have a ground. But when you start installing this sheet pile wall or a secant pile wall, what will happen? Once you have a sheet pile wall installed in the ground, having this sheet pile wall, you will try to excavate your soil here. So what will happen in behind your, this is the external side, this is the internal side, this is the construction area. But here what will happen, you will have your soil behind. One side you will have your soil behind, but other side you will be excavating your soil simultaneously. But you can also ask me if I have my sheet pile here due to your soil mass laterally pushing. So maybe this will be failing, right? This will also topple inside. So that is why in order to retain that, we will having a supports for this sheet piles. So once you have a cantilever sheet pile, but it's only for the shallow depth. Maybe it is for 3 or 4 meter. Cantilever sheet pile is nothing but without any supports. Without any support, the cantilever sheet pile itself will support your soil mass laterally. But once you have your foundation load, any type of load, maybe it can be building load nearby your excavation. It can be a crane load also, like any moving load also. Because of this load, what will happen? Your soil will try to sag. Okay, when the soil is trying to sag, your soil mass will be pushed here on this sheet pile. So your sheet pile will automatically deflect. Your bending moment will be not within the limit. So all these problems will happen. So that is why in order to laterally restrain, you will have to go for your support either horizontally or else in an inclined way. So horizontally, you cannot horizontally insert a rod. This is called the tie rods or the tension rods. You cannot install this rod automatically. So you have to have your anchor wall. Anchor wall is also called a sheet pile wall. This is called the main sheet pile wall. This is the anchor wall. When you have this anchor wall, so these two walls will be tied with the tie rod. So that is how it works. Okay, so this will arrest your lateral deflection and your bending moment also will be within the limit. So you can also have a proposal for the horizontal thing, and if it is a vertical thing, you will have to push these anchors in an inclined way, 30 degrees or 45 degrees or 60 degrees, based upon there should not be any building also. Okay, so you have to look into that also. If there is any building or if there is any pile foundation here, then these anchor rods will go and hit the pile foundation. It will damage your foundation. So you will have to take precautions of that. This is the geological hazards. Okay, so you will have to foresee these kind of problems also nearby structures. So when you have to install your anchors, so you will have a grout. This grout itself will be a bonding element for your soil. So when you're pulling out your anchor rod, this sheet pile will be laterally restrained. That is, it will not deflect too much, and also your bending moment also will be within the limit. Okay, so as I said, this will be the earth retaining walls can be a cantilever wall without any supports, or a pile wall with one level of tie rods, or a pile wall with one level or two level of anchor rods. Okay, this is not the tie rod. This is the tie rod. This is the anchor rods. So if one level of anchor rods are not feasible, then you can also install two levels based upon your deflection, lateral deflection of the pile. Also, you are based upon your bending moment. You can even go for two levels of anchors also. Okay, so this is actually a common problem. 80% of my professional life, I have been in the earth retention problems only, because it is a very interesting, and also you also need logical thinking of the for this also. Okay, so for this you should see even the hazards also. So it is not quite easy for us. Yeah. Now, actually, how do you do this design? We always have a software in our company. Anything Geo5 or we used some D-sheet, but in India we don't use that. It is a European. But D-sheet was very good actually. It was a quick analysis for any earth retention problems. So what you do is you have to give your soil model, you have to give your soil layers here, okay? And once you define your soil layers, you have to define your water table also. You have to define your water table, and you have to define this sheet pile. These sheet piles will be in terms of stiffness. So stiffness is nothing but your Young's modulus of your steel as well as moment of inertia of this sheet pile. So you have to give your stiffness of the sheet pile, and you will have to check your design for bending moment, deflection, your forces in your thyroid, forces in your ankles, and your passive resistance. I'll tell you what is passive resistance, and also your global stability of the whole sheet pile also. So there are even the surcharge. So the design assumptions will cover even the surcharge. Surcharge is nothing but you have, when you have your, as I said, this building load nearby, even that will cause a huge lag here. Okay, so you have to take your building load, or you will be having any piling rig, or you will have any crane load also on it. But you, when you design this sheet pile, you will always have to take the loads nearby this sheet piles. Okay, so you will have to calculate your allowable bending moment. So when you have the stiffness of the pile, even you will be ultimately, you will be known your allowable bending moment of this sheet pile. Your software will tell you about the calculated bending moment. Always a calculated bending moment will be lesser than your allowable bending moment. And your deflection, as a thumb rule, we always take 30 mm to 50 mm for the lateral deflection. If it is above 50 mm, then we will try to change the stiffness of the pile. We will replace with higher capacity pile, or we will change the thyroid force also for the lateral deflection. You have to check your bending moment, you have to check your deflection, forces in the thyroid. Even the thyroid forces also, you will have these are specially designed, right, by the thyroid specialist. They have you have a thyroid specialist, you have a company for that. So these people will be giving you the thyroid forces also. Even for the anchor design, anchor people will be giving you the anchor forces. So all this will be, should be within the allowable limit. As I said, global stability also you have to foresee. The passive resistance, now the passive resistance will come into act in your depth of embedment. Suppose you have this wall deflecting here. So you know that when your pile is moving away from your soil, you have your active earth pressure here, and you have your passive earth pressure. When your passive resistance is mobilized fully, then it will affect your global stability. Okay, when your passive resistance has been fully mobilized. So what you have to do is, you have to check your depth of embedment here. So depth of embedment is nothing but the sheet pile wall embedded below your excavation level. This is your excavation ground, right? This is not your actual ground, this is one. But you have excavated the soil, and then this is your embedment. The level from where excavation is there to your toe of the pile is called your depth of embedment. If your passive resistance is fully mobilized, then you will have to increase your toe of, depth of embedment. Maybe this is a 3 meter. When you see that your passive resistance has been fully mobilized, then you will have to increase your depth of embedment from 3 meter to 5 meter, and then check your passive resistance, and then check your global stability. If everything is okay, then this sheet pile will be used for your construction. Okay. Then next comes the slope stability problem. So this is common in embankments as well as in the construction sites. So when you have a ground slope, right? So what will happen? Your shear stresses will be induced. That will cause your soil to slide here. Okay, so because of the self weight of the soil or any surcharge here, your shear resistance will be developed, and this will cause your soil to slide. And for this, you have to have a check, and you have to check whether this slope is okay for your construction. So based on this, you will define your slope angle, right? Maybe you can start with, if it is a very medium dense and medium strength of the soil, you can check with one vertical is to 1.5, or to horizontal. Suppose if this height is 2 meter, then this should be 4 meters. So likewise, you have to determine, it should be a trial and error unless and until you reach a factor of safety of 1.2. If it is a temporary case, you will be using a factor of safety of 1.2. If it is a permanent case, you will be using a factor of safety of 1.3. So unless and until you achieve that factor of safety, you will have to keep on have the iteration process. Maybe if 1 is to 1.5, one vertical is to 1.5 horizontal is not working, then you will have to change it to 1 vertical is to horizontal. But there also you have to do your optimization. If you can check, if you can work with 1 vertical is to 1.5 horizontal, well and good. And then in terms of a slope failure, it can be a large as well as an immediate also. So how this happens is due to increase in your pore water pressure. So embankments. So I said, no, you have to do seepage analysis. So when the pore water pressure increases, what will happen? It will try to erode your material here. So you will have to give some protection measures like install some drainage material, install some filter material so that your upstream phase water doesn't enter your downstream phase. Okay, and then these kind of problems, slope stability problem and seepage analysis, we use geoslope software to check our WM capacity. So if we have such kind of problems, first we do seepage analysis in CW, and then later on we check the slope stability. So there are two stages for that. So for the construction sites, if you have an open cut excavation, suppose you wanted to build a trench, some value chamber, and you wanted to go for a chamber, right? Trench kind of thing. So you will have a vertical cut for the trench. So you cannot do that stretch. So you should have your open cut like this. You should have your open cut like this, and you will have to provide a berm. This horizontal surface is called berm. Or else what will happen if you have a slope and then have a trench cutting here, your soil mass will try to slide here. It will be total failure. So once you have a open cut excavation, you will have a berm for 2 meters or 3 meters, and then you will have a trench here. Okay, so this is how you solve your slope stability problems. So the failure can be anything. It can be a circular failure or a toe failure alone or a base failure. So if you see in this picture, it is a kind of local failure. So in order to make this slope work, maybe you can go for your soil nailing. It is like pinning at the specified intervals with some pre-tensioning methods. So you can have your wire mesh kind of a geotextile material. You can have your wire mesh spread on the surface, and then you can have your soil nailing, just pushing a pressure on the soil, pinning it like a pin, and then pulling out with the pressure. So that concept, soil nailing, can be done. And also when you are doing in your in this slope stability or in your earthquake prone zone, then you would also do your analysis with respect to seismic conditions. So you have a acceleration, right? Given acceleration for that zone. So you will have to input the acceleration, and you also check for the seismic conditions. Okay. Then let's go into earthworks. So earthworks is nothing but a cut and fill activity on the ground during your initial phase of the construction. So whenever if your ground is a wavy kind, like uneven, so first of all, your first activity should be, your platform should be even. So there your earthwork activity is more important. Okay. So for example, your surface is at plus 20 m chart datum. So you should understand what is the surface elevation or what is the level below the ground. So when you say below ground level, you mention as 0 meter, 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter, 5 meter, etc. But when you refer your surface platforms in terms of elevation, then you have to always use your plus symbol in front. This may be any number like plus 20. These levels will be given to you by the surveyor. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the levels. These levels will be given to you by the surveyor. It can be plus 20 or plus 30, something like that. If your client is asking you to give the platform from plus 20 to plus 22, so automatically when you have to fill your ground, it will be under a filling activity, right? So already you have your plus 20 and then you wanted to have a 2 meter fill, then it will be a fill activity. Suppose the same client is asking you to give your ground at plus 18, then from plus 20 you will have to go to plus 18. So that will be a cut activity. Also in places where you have your mountain kind of platforms where you will have plus 20 here or plus 30 here, and you should have a building here. How? So you should perform your earthwork activity. So client might give you, if it is at plus 20 and plus 30, client might ask you to give you the platform at plus 25. So what you will do, you will bring out this plus 30 material. You will have to see whether this material is suitable for backfilling also. Okay, so this plus 30 material you will have to automatically fill in plus 2. So you will have to fill here and you will have to cut this area. so that you can bring your platform level evenly to plus 25 m. Okay. So as I said, this will be used in the initial phase of the construction in the engineered material for the foundation. So obviously, when you have to lay your foundation, you will have to trench cut, right? You will have to excavate the material. So once you finish your foundation laying, you will have to bring back your material, right? You have to fill the material back. So how do you do? You cannot just push the material inside, because that will, if the load is coming, unseen loads are coming onto that, you will have surface settlements, like local settlements. Okay, so you should have a proper technical specification or guidelines you must have to follow how to fill your foundation material also. Same in kind of utility structures. Utility structures are nothing but if you want to lay a stormwater drainage pipe or a firefighting drainage pipe, you will have a trench cut, right, along going for a few meters. So in that kind of material also, you will have to follow your backfilling your material according to the specifications and guidelines. And in payments, yeah, in the road works, at boats also, you will have this earthworks activity, and also of course in embankments also. So how do you choose your material, backfill material? It cannot be the material as you like. You cannot bring a material from wherever you want. It should be a construction material, like you say, it is engineered material. In the professional way, you call that term as engineered material. So the material has to pass several tests. Okay, like sieve analysis, it should be a well graded sand, and it should have a medium strength at least. The soil should be at least medium strength, and your fines should be less than 5% or 10%. So these kind of guidelines you have to follow when you choose your backfill material. That is what usually site 1 material shall be used wherever possible. This is what you call it as a site 1 material. The material which has already passed your backfilling criteria is called site 1 material, shall be used wherever possible. Where such fill is used as structural fill, it shall be engineered in order to achieve an equivalent of at least medium dense sand, which is the medium strength of the sand, satisfying the fill criteria. Once you have got the material, you should know how to compact also. For example, you're going to fill your material from plus 20 to plus 22. You cannot dump your 2 meter of fill as such like that. You have to go in stage by stage. Automatically, your building foundation will be coming on that area. So you have to go in stage by stage, like you have to fill your first 150 mm of thickness, and then continuously you have to do that, and then you have to reach your 2 meter. So maybe you can even, instead of 150 mm, you can also go for 200 mm. So this has to be done by some compaction equipment. So those equipments are smooth wheel roller, sheep foot roller, pneumatic rollers, vibrating plate, and power rammer. These equipments depend upon your soils also. You have to use this equipment. So this is a picture of a smooth wheel roller. So these machines will be used for the roller passes. This will go, you must have seen in how the road works are done with the rollers. So same concept they will apply. They will have to go for the roller passes. Maybe there will be 10 or 20 passes depending upon your compaction test results. Okay, but these plate rollers and power hammers are just like these are not done by these kind of machines, but these are done by the manual. Okay, it's like plate element, okay, with the handle. These kind of things are used for your foundation and utility structures. You think this on foundation and utility structures, which is very sensitive, you think that these kind of machines they will use? No, they have to use your plate roller and power hammer and manually tap on this, because these are very sensitive. It will be your foundation and your pipelines will break. So in that cases, you will be doing it manually. Your compaction will be done at your optimum moisture content as well as your dry density. That is, your material will be compacted at optimum moisture content and dry density. Once you finish your first 20 centimeter, you cannot go to your second 20 centimeter. First, you have to do your compaction test. How do you do is you have to do your field density test. You have to choose according to your specified intervals, like you can go for 2000 meters square, one field test, or 3000 meters square, one field test, and you can check your compaction test results. If the compaction test results are most satisfying, then you can go to the subsequent stages. Or if not, you have to go for the roller passes unless and until it reaches your satisfying criteria. Okay, this is all to check your appropriate strength of the backfill. Also, you can use a plate load test to check your instead field test. You can also do a simple plate load test also. And one more example I would like to give: if you have a 5 meter backfilling, if you have a 5 meter backfilling, and your foundation is placed at 2 meter. So obviously it is placed inside your backfill material, right? So you must test your material before you place your foundation. So what you do is, in that case, we used to give a simple plate load test or do a CPT small cone test to check your strength of the backfill. Okay, so if your plate load tests are giving your bearing capacity results okay and settlement results are okay, then we see that the backfill, whatever backfill material, whatever the compaction they have done is satisfying. Okay. Then next is ground improvements. So ground improvements, like we have a separate company for the where they do only ground improvements. They doesn't do any foundation kind of. They do a minor foundation works, but the major work will be on the ground improvements. Unless they do the earth retention systems and don't have other kind of geotechnical problems in their hand. Their company is specially set up for the ground improvements alone. Okay. Even a geotechnical engineer can join a ground improvement company also, but he will be having more knowledge after he gains a certain 5 or 10 years experience in that particular company. Then he will have a more knowledge on how to do a ground improvement. Okay. So these are the geotechnical construction methods only to improve your ground. Okay. When you have your poor ground conditions, like a very soft clay, loose sand, you cannot place your building foundations on very weak strata. So in that case, you will have to go for your ground improvement methods. So let's see what all the ground improvement methods are there. So the purpose of the ground improvement is to increase your bearing capacity. So once you have your replaced material, you will not use your, suppose a soft soil is there. So soft clay is there, you will use a cohesion value of 5 kP. If the soft soil is replaced by a very good backfilling material, then you will use your better angle of friction, right? That will increase your bearing capacity. Automatically your density also will increase, your gamma value will increase, and it will also control your huge settlements. Okay, this is also a common problem in your weaker strata, and reduce our risk of liquefaction. So when you have a shaking ground on your loose soil, what will happen? Your building will automatically sink. So when you have this ground improvement done on your weaker strata, you can also reduce the risk of liquefaction. And in terms of granular soils, which the coarse grain soils, it really rearranges soil particles, making it denser. So when your soil is in a loose state, loose sand, while compacting or doing some ground improvement methods, it will turn your soil more denser. In terms of cohesive soils, it will compress your soil particles because the cohesive soils are good and compressible, right? So it will compress the soil particles, thereby dissipates the pore water pressure. So this is also done with kind of preloading, which is automatically a consolidation theory, consolidation practice in your real field. Whatever you're doing in laboratory, you will do it in your real ground. So you have many ground improvement methods like soil replacement, stone columns, in situ soil mixing, grouting, reinforcements. You have compactions like rapid impact compaction, dynamic compaction, vibroflotation, micropiles, blasting, preloading, twig drains. So not all methods I'm going to discuss. I'm going to discuss only a few methods now. Okay. So here, if you see in this ground, these building foundations are in a weaker foundation. Okay. But same time, if you see, if you can replace this with a good material, this can be done only for shallow depth. You cannot improve your ground with a good material for a 10-meter deep. But you can, if it is a shallow foundation, you can improve these kind of. You can replace this like if it is a loose sand, you can replace with at least medium dense sand, so that it is the building foundations can sit on your good strata. And then next is if you can't do, you can have a small micropile. Micropile is for a long, shorter pile length, like 4 meter or 5 meter. You can term as a micropile. You can go for micropiles. Or if you want to go for a deeper stratum, you can have a pile foundation, obviously. Okay, so that the pile foundations will be installed directly on your good stratum, and you can have your building foundations there on the superstructures. Okay. So let's see what are the compaction methods. So as I told, the surface for if you have a shallow improvement like just a 1 meter improvement, then you can go only for a vibratory compaction. That is like a kind of earthworks. The equipment which you have seen in the under earthworks, you can bring your equipments here, and you can for a 500 mm or 1 meter you can do, not more than that. And you can, if you want your ground to be improved by 5 meter 10 meter, then compaction is one more method to do. The compaction, what it will do is it will drop your weight on the ground. When you drop your weight on the ground, what will happen? The loose strata will become denser. Okay, just dropping your weight on the ground. So these are not done at like the places you want. You will have to mark your points at a specified intervals, and at that point they will drop your under weight. So you have two types actually, rapid compaction as well as a dynamic compaction. Rapid compaction will be improving your ground only for 5 meter, less than 5 meter. But whereas for dynamic compaction, it will improve your ground by 10 to 12 meters maximum. It depends upon your pounder weight. So for rapid impact, you might use only 10 tons, or dynamic you can use more than 15 tons, maybe it's a 20 ton. So because of this, it can reach till 10 meter also. So I will, because this is one case study I have done. I have given in my slide, so I will tell you how they have done it. Okay. So next method is a vibroflotation. So this is a real like similar principle of piling foundation. So you install your pile, right? Same way, what they do is they will do a hole, like you do an auger boring, right? You make a hole in the ground. So likewise with strong jet tubes, these are very vibratory tubes. Okay, with the vibration itself, it will get self compacting. So what we'll do, they will insert this long tube to your desired depth. Suppose this is at this depth, you have to improve your ground. So they will inject your tube till that depth, and they will make a hole. So with the pressure of water, what will happen? Your soil particles will try to escape. And then you come with your good material, bearing material, and then you replace with the good bearing stratum. And these will be done at specified intervals. Okay, maybe 5 meter spacing or 3 meter spacing, something like that. So this is a vibro flotation or vibro replacements, and same way stone columns also. So this is just a wet process, and this is a dry process also. Okay, so same way, this also make a hole, and then you replace it with your granular material. So this is a kind of dry process, right? But the principle is the same. And then next is for the cohesive material. So these kind of improvement techniques will work only on the coarse grain soils with a little amount of fines. But for the cohesive soils, you have to use your preloading method. So what you do, you have to install your vertical drains. So vertical drains is nothing but a geotextile sheet. You will have some holes into that. So through that holes, your water will try to pass, and then that will dissipate your pore water pressure. Then by dissipating your pore water pressure, what will happen? Consolidation will happen, and then your ground will try to settle due to the embankment load. So what will happen once you install these drains, you can also install a embankment load, a kind of a soil load, or you can put a concrete blocks on top of that to make your to ease your process very quickly. Okay, so these are called prefabricated vertical drains. These are installed at specified intervals, and they can place this embankment on this. So your soft clay, if this ground is a very soft clay, within some time period, this will turn into a stiff clay. It will be a very good bearing stratum, so that you can place your superstructure here. Okay, so this is all the ground improvement methods. The next we'll go into the tunnels. So the tunnels are now a complicated structure everywhere. You have a metro rails everywhere in all part of the world. So nowadays the tunnels is a common geotechnical problem everywhere. But it is also good, quite good, because we are having a job at least. Okay, so what will happen, the tunnels, how they do is, you cannot insert this tunnels directly on your ground. So what they do, they will have a shaft kind, they will have a like a round a diameter opening on the ground. They will insert your drill bit, tunnel bit into that, and that will pass, that will have your horizontal movement of the ground. So you cannot just directly insert your tunnel TBM. You have to have your shaft, kind of a shaft, you say a shaft, which is a diameter kind of opening on the ground, and you insert your TBM machines in pieces, and then that will, you have to move with some kind of pressures. So it is nothing but a cut of your ground. Maybe it can be a soil or it can be a rock, but mainly the purpose is for your passage of vehicles, right? It will be enclosed. You have many tunneling methods, but here I have shown you the boring method. This, the one such machine which cuts your soil or rock is called the tunnel boring machine. So this is your drill bit. With this drill bit and with your bentonite injection with high pressure, you will have to cut your ground, and you have to save, you have to support your ground also, right? When you cut your ground, what will happen, you will also lose your you cannot have your support also. So before that, what you do is, you should have your excavation systems, like these kind of walls. You have to, these normally we do diaphragm walls, or like concrete panels which will be installed in stages. So these are like in situ. So you will have your concrete, like you will first have your guide walls here, and then you will place your soil reinforcements here, and then after that you will be concreting. So these are basically called as concrete panels. So it will be done for a particular, maybe for a meter or something like that. So once you have this wall ready, then you will push this TBM machines, so that once you push your TBM machines, soil will lose your stability, right? So that diaphragm walls will be protecting. Moreover, you should also see if there is any existing building under your tunnels. Okay, you should also see that geotechnical risk. So for that, when you have to start your tunneling activity, as I said, you have to start with your geotechnical investigation. You will have to extract your soil and rock parameters. You have to do your soil testing, rock testing. Then you have to come to your analysis and design stage. When you have the analysis and design stage, you have to do it in your sequence. You cannot do after stitch anything. So you have to do in a stage by stage. First, you should have some protection measures like excavation, retention structures. So first you have to do, and then only you can have your tunneling also. So those kind of analysis, detailed analysis and design, you have to list it in your database, or then you have to carry out your design. So these kind of problems are well represented in your 2D Plaxis and Plaxis 3D. Okay, so if you see in 2D model, you have to have your ground conditions. That is nothing but a soil model, your water pressures, and then you should have your tunnel here. So once you have this tunnel, you will have to run your model, and then finally you will be very interested to see your settlements. So once this tunnel is installed in your ground, what will happen? Your settlements will happen, surface settlements will be happen. So these are the color contours in the output. So your red will be the maximum and your blue will be the minimum. So if you see, your critical is in this part. So what will happen, and once this settles, what will happen? The top portion will be settling. So once it starts settling, if there's any nearby structures, that will also be complicated, will be critical. So what you have to do is, to avoid that, you will have to place the retaining walls to protect your building, or else these settlements, once it happens to settle the building, if it is settling, then the neighboring structure people will come and shout at you. Okay, so this is a well represented in 3D also. So if you see, you can even model your high-rise building also in your soil model in your Plaxis 3D. So here you can see your stress distribution. Once you have your tunnel stresses, so you can also understand how much stresses is getting distributed to your neighboring foundation, neighboring structure also. Once this is within the limit, your structure is safe. When there is too much of stress, you wouldn't have designed this stresses for your building foundations. Then you have to foresee how to protect the building foundations for these kind of structures also. So you have too much of geotechnical risk. Okay.